This video is for one type of person. It's not for the people that think they should be reading and know they should be reading and aren't reading enough. If you're that type of person, let me just say very clearly, very shortly, you should be reading. Like, if you don't read, if you don't open up books and read, then you are just as bad off as those who can't read. This video is about the people who do read books, for those really high achievers, those people who are reading a lot. And I have something that I've been learning and I wanted to share because it kind of hit me up the side of the head. Because for so long in life, I looked at people who were reading a bunch of books and I thought they were awesome. And I still think people who read a lot of books are really cool. I think of one guy I know who just reads books really well, and he'll read at least one a week. And that's impressive. I know people who set insane goals on Goodreads of reading so many books. I know people who would just plow through books. There's videos about people trying to read as many self-help books as possible, as quick as possible. And that's great. And now I want to be clear, I'm mainly talking about nonfiction reading. There's a time for fiction reading, and I enjoy a good fiction book. But as much as possible, I'm talking about those really high achiever, high productivity people who know that they're learning and they're growing, and readers are leaders and all those great things. And I'm talking to you because you probably read very, very quickly. Your goal is to get through as much information as possible so that you can be as far ahead of the curve as possible. And deep down, you're reading as fast as you can and reading through something and skimming through, and maybe you aren't skimming, maybe you're actually reading every single word, but you're trying to read quickly. The goal is to finish the book, get to the next book, finish that book, get to the next book. Oh man, this author was really good. I'm gonna read all 5 of his books and get as much knowledge and content as possible. I'm gonna read as much as I can because that's what you should do. You should read as much as possible. Sorta. Good job, you're reading. That's a good start. But here's the next step. Actually do something with your reading. And in order to do something with your reading, you probably need to slow down. Because the point in life right now is not to have as much knowledge as possible. We're well past that. Because if it was just to have as much knowledge as possible, then AI puts us completely out of the equation. We're obsolete because we can't process things as fast as possible. Just the other day, I uploaded a screenplay to a word calculator, what I like to call AI tools, and the word calculator spit out feedback in about 0.6 seconds. It read through the entire thing, processed it, and gave some really good thoughts on it, calculated from words and how people have uploaded screenplays in the past, and it gave some really interesting thoughts. I'm not going to use it, that's a whole other video, but it was able to do that in about 0.6 seconds. It takes me about 2 hours to read a screenplay. And so if the goal is to get as much information as possible, to process as much information as possible, then we're already behind and we're obsolete. So the goal should be to do something with the information. There's this really great parable from an ancient teacher, and he talks about these 2 types of people, and they look identical. One person, they build a house, and it looks, let's be honest, just as good as the other house. Both houses look identical. And here's the thing, they look identical at the bottom too. There's this base of, in ancient Middle East, there'd be a really dry climate, and it's probably still dry over there, I'm just assuming, but it would be a really dry dirt. And one person built their house on the dirt because it's dry, it's solid, it looks great. The other person, they dug down into the dirt, probably 3 to 4 feet to the rock, and built their house on the rock. And both houses looked identical. But then the rain came, and rain doesn't just tear down a house. Like, most houses are pretty sturdy, but it went for the foundation because this was all dirt. The dirt had dried because it was a really dry climate. Well, when the rain came, it just washed it completely away. It was built on dirt. But here's the point of that whole story. Is the people who heard stuff and it went one ear and out the other because they're processing it, they're reading it, they're just trying to get as much information as possible. Those people are like the person who built their house on the sand. But the people who hear and do, the people who hear something and then try it and put it into action, those people are like a person who built their house on the rock. So it's not good enough to just hear. You can listen to every TED Talk in the world, and yeah, you're going to get some benefit from it, but you can only hear so many worldviews and ways to live life and rules of life and processes and hacks and all these things without actually doing some of it. And if you don't do anything, then it's not paying off. And so you might think, well, I'm going to get through as much as possible so I can find the best one. And that's great, that's a great idea. But the thing is, if you're not processing what you're absorbing, then you're not doing anything with it. In American culture, we like to say soak it up like a sponge. And I think that's a great idea. Obviously, it has a great intent. I use it all the time, telling people, yeah, you're soaking up like a sponge, or yeah, I just want to listen and soak it up like a sponge. But there's another parable, and it says, there are 4 types among those who sit in the presence of a teacher, of a rabbi: the sponge, the funnel, the strainer, and the sieve. The sponge, which soaks everything up; the funnel, which takes in at this end and lets it right out the other; the strainer, which lets out the wine and retains the dregs; and the sieve, which removes the chaff and retains the fine flour. And so, if all those words don't make any sense to you, you can Google it, or you can just pick up the basic concept of there's the sponge that just soaks it up, the funnel that everything just passes through, the strainer that strains and all the good stuff gets out but it catches the wrong thing, or the sieve that catches the good thing and lets all the bad stuff out. And so in this parable, this rabbi was talking about how much better it was to be someone who actually catches what's good and wrestles with it a little bit. Doesn't just take everything that they hear as absolute truth, like wrestles with it, questions it a little bit, thinks about it. They're better than the person who just soaks everything up. And so in life, you can be someone who just soaks everything up. You can read everything as fast as you can just read it. You can even read it fairly slowly, but you're just soaking it up. You're not doing anything with it. But what I've been learning more and more is that you should do something with what you're reading. I will read a book and I'll tell someone how much it's changed my life and it's been amazing. And they're like, oh, I just read through it. I didn't think it was that good. Or I read through that and that's good. Yeah, I don't remember anything from it, but it was good. Or, oh, it was great. You know, I learned a lot from it. Well, what changes in your life? They can't answer it. And I'm not just saying like Christian books or biblical books. I mean, I'm talking about most nonfiction business books. That's typically what I read, whether that's a book about Netflix's founding, or it's one of my 4 right here that I just finished, about a study of businesses back in the 90s called Built to Last. Some of these books I will read multiple times. And I want to be clear, not every book is worth reading a bunch of times. I'll read some pretty dry, slow books they're interesting, but they just aren't worth my time. But by reading enough, by reading a book and realizing it has value, you can realize a book is just great. And there's so much fun to reading a book the first time because it's all new and great. But it takes more discipline, it takes more effort to read it through a second time, and to read it slowly and to think about it. And as you're reading, just set the book down and just think. And then pick it back up, read a little bit more, maybe underline some stuff, maybe write something down from the book. That takes a lot of effort to physically copy letter for letter, word for word, what's written in the book, and that helps it sink in and process just a little bit more. And then it takes the next level, which I haven't really got to this level, to read a book for the 3rd time and make it where you could just quote the book, basically. There's some books I've gotten to 2.5 times, and then I just found another book and was more excited. But I'm working on just reading it as slowly as possible. If you think a book is good and it has value, then why would you rush on to the next thing? If something is valuable, you keep it. If you're sifting through seashells at the beach and you find one that's really great, you don't go, oh, this is exciting, I love it, and race on to try and find more. I mean, maybe you do after a bit, but you grab the jewel, the valuable seashell, the one that looks great, that's untarnished, and you hang on to it and you enjoy it. Like, that's why you're looking, that's why you're out there searching, that's why you're reading a bunch of books. You can find the ones that are valuable, and when you find the one that's valuable, you should spend time with it and soak it up, and it'll be amazing. If you're a very high achiever and you read a bunch of books, just slow down your reading, think about what you're reading, and when you find something of value, spend a lot of time with it. And if for some miraculous reason you're not a reader and you've made it this far in the video just because you had it on autoplay and it just kept playing and you couldn't find the pause button, well, if you aren't reading, you're just as bad off as those who can't read.